뭐야?
An orphan girl named Chise is signing documents to be auctioned off while her owner Seth watches. He asks her whether she's going to regret it, and she says no. The auctioneers then continue to wrap irons around her neck and hands, as well as a chain that extends from the section that goes around her neck. She is led to a platform where the auction begins at £500,000. The price begins to rise, and a towering man enters the room, approaching her. He walks onto the platform and hands over the sum of £5 million. Surprising the audience, a half-beast and half-human looking man introduces himself as Elias and refers to Chise as his dog in a room within the building. He then asks her to close her eyes as he holds her and warns her that she may become dizzy. Thorns grow out of the earth and encircle them. Elias tells Chise to open her eyes as they arrive in a rural area. After that, she inquires as to their location, to which the wizard replies that they are on the outskirts of London, in a rural part of England. Elias bathes Chise because he believes she would be unable to fully clean herself. He departs the bathroom after washing Chise, and fairies enter via the half-opened window. They advise Chise not to refer to them as fairies, but rather as neighbors. When Chise emerges from the toilet, Elias has a meal ready for her and informs her that he will be addressing all of her questions. He explains why he picked her and tells her she would be his apprentice. Chise falls asleep on the bed after Silver shows her the room where she would be staying. One of the fairies awakens Chise up in the middle of the night and persuades her to go on a walk. Elias notices Chise leave the home and remarks that it will serve as a lesson. The fairy brings Chise far away from her house and they arrive at a gateway to a fairyland. She also attempts to encourage her to cross the portal, but Chise resists after recalling Elias informed her she was family. Elias cuddles Chise as the fairies escape. On their journey home, Elias informs her that he intends to marry her. Chise meets and learns more about the monster, known as Silky, before accompanying Elias Ainsworth to London. They both run across Angelica Barley and her familiar. Angelica, unaware of Chise's actual nature, as is Lay Becky, teaches Chise magic in both practice and theory. Chise and Elias briefly discuss the apprentice's history on their walk home, before being hailed by a priest at their door. While Chise meets Simon, the priest assigns 3 new missions to Elias, beginning with the dragon's Aeron Island. Chise is kidnapped by an overpowered dragon and its rider as soon as they arrive. We begin with Chise landing in a realm of green and stoned beneath the jaws of a dragon, having been assured by the magician above it that they would be there soon. A quick flashback tells us that this is the dragon's nest in Iceland, and that dragons like mages are on the edge of extinction. The dragons were meant to be docile once the more vicious ones were weeded out, but Chise's kidnapping naturally confuses her on that front. Before Chise is thrown into the ocean and begins to sink, we see an incredible mage of many juvenile dragons rushing. When she eventually emerges, she comes across a massive stone dragon that is getting blind, and that his decomposing corpse is giving birth to plants that will constitute the foundation of a new forest. When questioned why he brought her, he says that he heard about her from the Ariels, the small fairies that tried to capture her, since tales fly like wildfire with them. Before informing Elias, he may step out of her shadow. Some things become clear shortly once Elias has some alcohol dry Chise off. The mage's name is Lindel, also known as Echoes, and he is the land's guardian, keeping regular people from venturing into it. He's also known Elias for at least 300 years and is obviously old enough to refer to Elias as a brat. The dragon hatchling then begged Chise to play with them, as if they were puppies. While the adults go off to discuss business, she ultimately wears them out before speaking with a huge dragon, named Nevin again. The hatchlings explain that he will soon change into a tree, and as all Uwolf do when they die. Chise glances around and notices that numerous others have also done so. Dragons, on the other hand, do not fear death in the same way that people do, because they live their lives to the fullest, so that they have no regrets. Chise then gets a flashback to her earlier days, including one in which she was contemplating suicide. which Nevin informs her is lucky because she had been projecting the memories onto him unwittingly. He then does her a favor by showing a memory of him soaring across the countryside, while the parents look on. Nevin's death at this time implies he'll be the last of the old dragons to die, while Chise may be the final generation of magicians. They go on to say that because Chise is a slay beggy, she won't endure 3 years if Elias doesn't educate her effectively. Nevin then advises Chise to keep living before the memory fades, and he thanks her as he transforms into a tree. He hopes that if she needs a wand, she'll build one out of his branches before saying goodbye. Chise is still envious of the tranquil manner in which he departed, before collapsing at the end of the episode. Chise awakens in Elias's lap, after passing out in the dragon's eyrie, and dreaming of a strange girl petting her cat. Just as Matthew walks into the room, Jasper pays Chise and Elias a visit and welcomes them to Ulthar. Once there, the group encounters another cat and the current king of cats before following them to a lake near town, where Chise learns about the town's history before being tossed into the water by an unknown lady. While Chise is at the lake, she is contacted by Mina, who tells the apprentice about her and her husband's plight before being roused up by Elias. They wait until nightfall to prepare Chise for her mission of cleaning the lake with various supplies and an aerial. However, she is interrupted by the lady from earlier and a sorcerer named Renfred, who reveals to Chise her fate as a slay beggy. Chise is both astonished and stunned by Renfred's statements regarding her impending doom as a slay beggy, which Alice explains briefly. Renfred tries to get Chise to desert her instructor, but she retaliates, and Chise manages to escape, allowing Elias and the other cats to arrive and defend the slay beggy. Chise, together with Ariel and Molly, set out to cleanse the lake's stagnation and finds up peering into the memories of people caught in it. They accompany Matthew as they seek the advice of a traveling sorcerer over his wife's health. The sorcerer follows Matthew to his house and inspects Mina. Shortly after, he goes outside with Matthew and predicts that she would die within a few years. Matthew, desperate to rescue his wife, slaughters the neighborhood cats as directed by the sorcerer in the hope of finding a cure. Mina discovers it before being compelled to swallow the cure, which causes her body to disintegrate. Matthew, who has gone mad, is slain by Tim, the first Cat King. Once this is completed, Mina confronts Chise and the others, and Chise ultimately works out how to guide the souls of Mina, Matthew, and the other cats to the next realm. While Chise is cleansing the lake's stagnation, Renfred, Alice, and Elias are discussing, while Renfred challenges the mage's motivations for pursuing Chise. Elias responds with his own inquiries, how Renfred obtained that knowledge, why he is here, and who removed his arm. Chise, on the other hand, pauses their chat while she completes the procedure, before passing out. Chise and Elias debate the young apprentice's destiny as the alchemists leave. After 2 weeks, Elias returns to the wilderness with food prepared by Silver, where Chise is still sleeping. Simon arrives shortly after, concerned about her, and they argue for a bit until Tatiana appears beside Spriggan. Before Oberon is discovered close to Chise, the queen sends Simon away, since he is a priest. Chise awakens with the king's assistance and is introduced to the king and queen of the Fae. Chise and Elias discover Simon on their way home, after both parties have departed, but he is forced to leave seconds later. Chise then tells Elias that she wishes his experiment worked, and he reassures her before they head home. When Alice is waiting for her teacher's return, a familiar sorcerer and Renfred are arguing. As for the Ainsworths, Elias begins teaching his new pupil magic seriously after Chise has fully healed from her experience in Ulthar and has learned more about her nature as a slay beggy. They quickly set off to explore the church's final request, which entails determining whether or not the church grim or black dog is hostile. Chise is left to explore on her own and is ambushed by an evil spirit before being saved by the black dog, who misidentifies her as Isabel. Soon after, he loses consciousness and dreams of the lady he previously mentioned. Alice enters and demands that Chise hands up the dog before being put to sleep by a potion concocted by Chise because she felt threatened. After waking up, Ulysses continues to speak about Isabel and how Chise resembles her. The slay beggy comes to learn that Isabel is dead and that Ulysses doesn't realize who he is. Chise interrogates Alice when she awakens with her wrists bound behind her back. Elias emerges from Chise's shadow and accepts Alice's offer to assist them with his child, as she discloses that she and her master are being blackmailed by this odd youngster to collect stuff for him. Chisa notices Cartaphilus and his chimera as they come, forcing Alice to the side as she takes a hit for her. Elias was transformed into a monster as a result of this. Chise wakes up in the monster arms of her instructor after being hit and losing consciousness. However, when the mage becomes enraged, Elias lets go of her and begins attacking Cartaphilus's chimera, while Ulysses attempts to awaken Chise. The Soleil Beggy dreams about Ulysses' history with Isabel and of her demise before waking up again. After dealing with the chimera, Elias attempts to agitate Cartaphilus by screaming out his name, but is stopped by Chise, while Cartaphilus receives a shot from Renfred. As both masters rejoin with their trainees, Elias reverts to his normal self. Cartaphilus, on the other hand, recovers, and a chimera created from Isabel comes before them. Chise then threatens Cartaphilus before being teleported away by Blue Flame. When Chise is secure, the fairy is recognized as Will-o'-the-Wisp, and he immediately begins bickering with Elias until both of them respond to quiet him down. Blue Flame continues to assist Ulysses in discovering his actual identity as a church gloomy, only to have the dog give himself as a familiar to Chise. Cartaphilus returns but is unable to prevent the Slay Beggy and the Black Dog from forging their deal, leading to Ulysses being renamed into Ruth and his killing Isabel. Cartaphilus departs, followed by Renfred and his apprentice. Blue Flame is seen carrying the deceased soul away before Elias and Chise leave with Ruth. Ruth pays a visit to Isabel's grave before coming to Chise, and the two of them ask Elias whether he plans to leave his room, as he has been for the previous 2 weeks, but he says he'll stay for a little bit longer. After dining, Silver kicks Ruth and Chise out of the house so that they may go shopping. They immediately see Angelica and Hugo and accompany them to a neighboring hamlet, where they go shopping and discuss Chise's present dilemma. Chise and Ruth make another attempt to speak with Elias once they arrive. They spend the night together, and Chise awakens from a nightmare to find a message from Elias saying he'll be back by nightfall. During their hunt, they stumble upon an old man and the vampire that lives with him. Ruth departs to go for Elias, leaving Chise with Joel and the Lianin. They discover him laying in a pond, and Chise asks Elias to explain about himself at some point, to which he responds that he will need some time but will do it anyhow. Chise and Ruth head to the Dragon's Eyrie to meet Lyndall, who instructs the trainee to begin crafting her wand from Nevin's tree. She keeps doing this until midnight, when Lyndall takes advantage of the chance to inform her about Elias's background. Lyndall tells her about the encounter and how they ended up finding Rahab, Lyndall's teacher. Meanwhile, adult Stroud and Renfred from the college approach Elias to talk about Chise's future. Lyndall continues to speak with Chise about his history with Elias, sharing the difficulties they had throughout their years together, as well as a terrible secret about her instructor. The next morning, she is granted the option to resume work on her wand, which she does until dusk once more, while Lyndall departs. When Lyndall returns, he praises Chise's efforts, and then she sings for her, demonstrating his power as a mage, which draws a few dancing elves to the lake. Chise then meets Elias through a water mirror and explains his background as well as her wish to expose her own when she returns. With Chise absent, Elias considers how close he has become to her. Lyndall sings a new spell when Chise has completed carving her wand, merging the wand with magical stones and Chise's hair. Chise has a vision of the spirit realm while holding her wand, where she encounters Uncle Nevin. She explains that her feelings for Elias are troubling her since she has attempted to keep a distance in case he no longer wants her. Nevin tells Chise that he is pleased her mother opted to protect her since she would never have been able to assist others. He advises her to consider what she wants to accomplish with her life. When Chise wakes, she says with a smile that she has something to tell Elias and casts a tremendous spell that causes her to soar back to Elias in the shape of a massive fiery phoenix. Elias smiles as she enters his arms. Their house is warm again. Chise falls asleep from utilizing magic before she can tell him what she wants to say. Chise dreams of a period when her parents were happy and then wakes up joyful for the first time in years. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see the next part.